Well, the 2024 Broncos season is over, and man, it was a huge success overall, regardless of the loss in the playoff game. The fact that this team made the playoffs exceeded all expectations, and that we found our franchise quarterback. It's been an amazing season, an amazing ride. And looking into 2025, we need to have a lot of players, especially young players, some of them rookies, some of the second, third year guys, that I really want to see develop and make that leap to contribute and play very, very key roles into 2025. And we're going to discuss 5 of those players today on the episode. So tune in for that. And if it's your first time on the channel, thanks for coming in. If you guys are Bronco fans, Avalanche fan, Nuggets fan, all things Denver sports, except for the Rockies, we got you covered here on the channel. So hit that subscribe button, join the community, and let's have a little bit of fun. All right. So we all know, guys, we already talked about the season. We don't got to, go through all of the, the positives and the negatives about it. We've already addressed that in previous videos. But one of the big reasons why the Broncos season was so successful and that they were able to really, overcome a lot of the narratives and make the playoffs when really nobody thought that they would is because they got amazing contribution from young players, right? An amazing rookie class, obviously starting with Bo Nix, Troy Franklin had some development that he had showed during the year. Jonah Ellis played a key depth role. Chris Abrams-Drain looked really good in the opportunities that he got. Audric Estime showed a little bit of those flashes, but there wasn't that commitment. But it was really the second-year guys and the third-year guys that really took a huge leap, right? Riley Moss, Marvin Mims, Nick Bonito, that were able to, take this team to another level. And those players developing, the Riley Mosses, the Marvin Mims, and the Nick Bonitos developing in the first couple of years, making huge leaps really from year 1 to year 2, and then even bigger leaps in the case of Nick Bonito from year 2 to year 3. That's going to be what's going to be a very, very, very big key into us having a very successful 2025 season and potentially entering into that Super Bowl window that we all talk about, right? And obviously there's going to be free agency, the draft, that are going to be critical, but you cannot forget about the players that you have on the roster and continuing to develop them. So at number 5, the guy that I want to talk about a lot is Drew Sanders, right? Somebody that I don't think was talked about enough. He's had injuries really derail him quite a bit in his first couple of years of the season. But not just that, the injuries were obviously a problem. But another problem is I feel like the coaching staff didn't really do him a lot of favors by not really giving him a position that he was going to play at and sticking to him, right? They're always trying to find certain packages for him. So he can't really develop into a proper edge player, but he can't really develop into a proper off-ball linebacker. So, that's a big hindrance to him. In addition to that, the injuries didn't help. Hopefully he has an offseason this year where he's healthy, where he gets himself in, solid shape, and he's able to pick a position, or the coaches put him in a position where he's going to stick to it. I think his best position is definitely off-ball linebacker. We need a lot of playmakers there. I think we're going to add to that room quite a bit in free agency and in the draft. But I would love to see what it is that he can do in that position because, coming out, he started his college career in Alabama and then he transferred over to Arkansas. But he was one of those, guys that was on the freak list, right? His RAS score was huge, off the charts in terms of just the kind of explosive athlete that he was. Really, really impressive. And I'd like to see him settle into a role and see what it is that he can do. So that's the first thing for me that I look at is get himself a solidified role. And then after that, be able to really improve with play recognition. I think that's something that's going to come obviously with a lot of experience, but even the experience that he can get in training camp, right? And in the preseason, which he missed out on completely last year and a little bit in his rookie year as well. I think getting him those reps would be really big because the coaching staff, one thing that they have proven is that they're really high on him. They activated him from IR when they really didn't need to. And they, got him playing as, and up to speed a lot quicker than a lot of people anticipated. I think part of it was because they saw that they had some deficiencies at linebacker, but also because they saw something in the player. And he's a really good special teams player is what he's proven. So I'm really interested to see what it is that Drew Sanders can do. So that was not my number 5. Number 4 on the list is Jonah Ellis, right? Somebody that, man, he's shown a lot of really great flashes during his rookie year. I loved his play. what I was really the most surprised about with him is that he was really solid and good, on the point of attack and being able to, set the edge in the run game specifically. And he had a surprisingly, good amount of different pass rushing skills as well. But he could still improve. I expect for him to make a really big leap from year one into year two. I expect him to get a lot stronger. I expect him to be somebody that is going to really be an edge player first, and then a pass rusher second. That's what he's kind of always, that's kind of what the scouting report on him was. That's kind of what I've seen a lot of in his rookie season. I expect for him to get a lot stronger. And he's somebody that is really unique because not only is he going to play a really key depth role, and obviously somebody that when called upon and when needed, can be a starter, if some kind of injury happens to Cooper or Bonito. But what makes him really unique is that he's a different type of edge player than Bonito and Cooper are. Both of them are really good pass rushers, but they're not the best at setting the edge. Cooper is definitely better than Bonito is. Bonito's gotten a lot better. But somebody that is really strong, that can hold up very well against the run game. Jonah Ellis certainly projects to be that type of player. And so I expect for him to make a lot of strides when it comes to that part of his game. And I'd love to see it because I think he's someone that I'd like to see have an even more expanded role in this defense going in year two. So for him, it's just about getting stronger. I think he got a lot of really good reps, his great experience this year. So you got to love that. But I'd love to see him make a leap because, like I said, I think he could be a massive, massive contributor to this defense. Number 3, and that is Riley Moss, right? And obviously, a lot of the times when you think of like players that need to develop and show a lot of growth, it means that they weren't good. And that is not the case at all with Riley Moss. Riley Moss, especially before the injury to his knee, was phenomenal. I really, really loved what I saw. And I was shocked by how good he was, given that it was really his first season getting any kind of playing action. He didn't really get much playing time at all his rookie year. So if he can make that much of a leap from year 1 to year 2, I can't wait to see what he does from year 2 to year 3. We already know he's going to be somebody that's going to be heavily targeted. He's going to get a lot of opportunities come his way. And even though I think he showed a lot of really good things this year, obviously there's so much room for him to grow and improve, in both man and in zone coverage. I think he's a good tackler, but he can get a little bit better there. And I think just repetition, him having an offseason to get, stronger, he's more comfortable in this defense. I think he could take him to a Pro Bowl, all-pro type of level. I really do. But that role is so important opposite of PS2. So he's going to be somebody that I think is going to be huge in terms of dictating where this team can go and what the goals and aspirations are of them going in to 2025. All right. Number 2 on the list is Audric Estime. And it is really, for me, I think it's more just wishful thinking. The running back position is terrible. We saw flashes of what Audric Estime can do, the power that he can possess as a runner, a lot of the explosiveness that he can possess as a runner. But I think that an offseason for him is going to be key. He doesn't necessarily have to get stronger. He can maybe work on some speed training and some things like that to be able to get better there. But it's the mental aspect of it for Audric Estime. So I'd like to obviously see him get over the fumbling issues, not have him always be running with 2 hands covering the ball, be a little bit more loose, not thinking so much out there. But B is going to be his improvement as a pass protector, right? He's got the frame and the strength to be very good at it, but it's going to be about, recognizing the play, understanding where the rushes are going to be coming from, and then obviously the techniques to make a block, things that he can definitely work on in the offseason to get better if he wants to make this team or if he wants to have a really key role into the team next year. We are going to add to the room. There's no doubt about it, whether it's in free agency or in the draft. But I'd like to see him get a crack at it because he's got a lot of traits that you love in a 3-down workhorse type of back. I just want to see him kind of hone those skills in. And let's not forget, he's a really young player. He was 20 years old when we drafted him. So super young, super inexperienced. I think it was good for him to get out there, get some of the jitters out. He got I think almost 100 carries, touches, this year. So that's going to be helpful. He had said, he got some confidence that helped, quote unquote, awaken the beast. We didn't really fully see that. I was a little bit bummed to see him be deactivated in the playoff game. But I think next year is going to be a fresh year for him, fresh start. And one thing that Sean Payton has shown is that he might not always trust rookies to be full-time roles. He likes for them to develop as much as they possibly can in year one, and especially into that offseason. He always gives his players goals of what he wants to see and what they should work on going into, the following year. But I think next season he's going to get a legitimate crack at being the RB1 for this team. I'm really excited to see what he can do with it. So Audric Estimate at number 2. And without further ado, guys, this might be surprising to some of you guys, maybe not to others, but it's going to be Troy Franklin. It's got to be. He got a lot of slack, for his performance at times this year, and I get it. There was a lot of mental errors. He seems to have trouble, tracking the ball down when it's up, and surprisingly, him and Bo aren't on the same page. He kind of had a little bit of one-trick pony aspect to his game. But let's not forget this guy's super young player, right? I don't care what he was projected. I think he gets a lot of, there's a lot of pressure on him because he was a first or a second rounder on a lot of teams' boards and blah, 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 blah. But let's not face it. Let's face it. And let's not try to deny the fact that he was a very raw prospect coming out of Oregon. He really was never developed a full route tree because that's not what he was asked to do when he was in Oregon. I think a 4th round pick is a little bit more of, it was more fitting for where he ultimately went to in terms of just his overall body of work. But he showed so much explosiveness and he put such gaudy numbers at Oregon. I think it really inflated his initial draft rating. But somebody with Troy Franklin, I saw a lot of traits for him that I was actually really surprised. Let me take you guys, let's take it back to training camp, right? He had an injury and then he was really struggling in camp a lot, to the point where a lot of people were like, this guy is not even worthy of making the team. Not only does he make the team, he starts to actually play and gets out on the field way sooner than I think a lot of people anticipated. And I think that was a good thing for him. He kind of got thrown into the fire. I thought he handled it really well. But a lot of the things and a lot of the areas in which he can grow in, I think are some things that they're not simple on the surface, but you see guys improve in these things all across the board. Number 1, I think he absolutely needs to get stronger. He needs to add weight on his frame. He's just a little bit too slender. I think if he can, you see these guys, they get into an NFL conditioning program. They can finally dedicate their time, especially in the offseason. They don't got class, right? They're not going to school. They don't have other priorities that they have to take into account. They can fully dedicate to their diet, their body, their workout regimen. So I would not be surprised if he shows up to camp quite a bit bigger, a lot stronger, and a lot more confident in terms of the player that he is. And then improving as a route runner, right? Being able to go out there and run all sorts of different types of routes, not just go ball routes, or more simple deep post type routes. I would love to see him get better at the short and the intermediate game, somebody that can, sell a lot of things. He certainly has the talent and the athleticism to do so. And so getting with, elite, receiver coaches and guys that help with these kinds of things and training with other receivers in the NFL in the offseason, those are things that could be huge. It's all about repetition and putting that into work. So a lot of people are down on Troy Franklin, understandably so, but I'm really not. I'm super optimistic about his future, but he's the most important player, I think, for us in terms of, making that year over year jump, because even though, the wide receiver room as a whole is a room that I think is below average in terms of what it was last season, but it's filled with guys like him and Vele, and obviously what Mims can continue to do progressing, that can make it a really, really good, solid room. I expect for us to absolutely add to the room in both free agency and in the draft. But having somebody like Troy Franklin take that next step can be huge. He's a unique player because his size and his strengths are, you don't really see it a lot, right? You either see guys that when they're 175 pounds at the combine, they're either, quick twitch, unbelievably fast, quick, shorter guys that can dominate in the slot or be more of like a offensive weapon, kind of have a very specific role. or they're 6 foot, but they're like 210 pounds in that height. So he doesn't have elite height, and I think it was actually closer to like 6'2". So his height and his length are pretty good if he's in the 6'2" range. Yeah, my apologies. He's 6'2" is his height, but he's really, really skinny. So it's like, what does he fit in? Is he a deep burner, or is he somebody that can become a possession receiver? It's a strange kind of middle ground for him to be in, from what I see. But I believe that, like I said, with putting on some weight and getting better, he can be somebody that is a really solid outside receiver, that you get the ball in his hands in space, good things can happen. And I think they really wanted to get the ball in his hands in space, but he just wasn't able to create separation with him being a little bit more raw. Sorry, the dog's on me. With him being just a little bit more raw in terms of his overall route running ability. And so I think he can make a lot of strides there and put himself in a really good position to develop year one over year two. I just see it. You see a lot of those flashes. And obviously he has to get a lot better at catching the football. But like I said, these are all things that you get better at, right? You have a full off season. You have to remember with these rookies too, especially somebody like Troy Franklin, when you're a really young guy, and you played in the Pac-12, so it's not the highest level of competition in NCAA, but it's still good. But it's not going to be NFL competition. But you played at Oregon in an offense that was just designed to spread and throw the ball out. You're going to be putting godly numbers, but your transition into the NFL is pretty steep. There's a pretty steep learning curve for a lot of these, specifically Pac-12 receivers, but really Oregon receivers in general. It seems like, just because it's such a transition. Not just against who you're playing, but how complex the offense is, right? He went from a really simplified offense for a receiver in Oregon to a very complex offense in what he's being asked to do here in Denver. But in addition to that, these guys, the rookies, he's really young. His season ends, he's immediately focused on the combine and work. These guys are working on the combine and doing combine drills and trying to get faster. They're not necessarily doing things to make them better football players. They want to perform better at the combine. Then you have the draft day. And then you have the draft ultimately, and then you're just kind of thrown into minicamp. So they're really drinking out of a fire hose. And this doesn't just go for Troy. Obviously, it goes for all rookies. Now that he's gotten, a lot of snaps under his belt in his rookie season, he can sit back and he can reflect. He can really dedicate that time to perfecting his craft, to getting his body right. And I was happy to see him actually make it through the season without any injuries at a smaller size, which is good too. And he can really focus on getting stronger and put weight on. Those are always different things. I try to tell people, just because you get stronger doesn't mean you necessarily gain weight, but you'd like to see him put some weight on that frame, get stronger as a player overall, so that, he can really start to grow as a receiver, make those contested catches, be able to take a little bit more hits. They can utilize him in a lot of different ways. I think he can do it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Troy Franklin can do going into 2025. Let me know what you guys think below. Is there anybody that I missed? There is a lot on this team, but is there anybody that you think is more of a priority than the 5 that I listed? Let me know below in the comments. I'm curious. Otherwise, stay tuned for some more Broncos content. It's the offseason, baby. There's so much happening. So let's get this. Go Broncos as always. Spend time with those you love the most. Don't forget to do that. And until next time, peace out.